Welcome into the Hot Read Podcast live here on Tuesday, June the 17th. I am your host, JT Ruhnke, writer and reporter here at the 440 Sports Podcast Network. You can follow me on all the socials at JT_Ruhnke. No Stoney Keeley today, but we're having a little bit of a reunion tour to kick off the what is our darkness retreat, not Aaron Rodgers by any means, but our own darkness retreat into the downtime of the year with Easton Freeze of AtoZSports, former host of the Hot Read Podcast. Easton, welcome back, first of all. How
Hello.
are you doing, my friend? And I just have to say, was it nice? Very professional of you. I have to ask.
That's the you're on a show alarm in case you're not on the show yet.
At 4:08, 8 minutes late, just like always.
I figured by then, if I wasn't already on the show, then I'd need to get my butt on the show.
Oh, that's great. Now, Easton, I do need to ask you a question before we start today's show. Obviously, the Titans Twitter account ran a smear campaign on you last week. Now,
Did they? I missed that.
Well, was the Father's Day post you? Did you get into their account and post that to get back at them? Is that what happened?
Yep, that's the psyop. It was very important to me to make them look like a bunch of woke idiots. And mission accomplished, because that made so many people angry for some reason. So
it was quite funny.
Take that, Nate Bain.
There you go. They got what they deserved. QC Hawk says, wait, Easton is alive. I thought Titans admin had murdered him on Twitter.
That picture isn't actually me, by the way. Common misconception on the internet. Not me. That's somebody else.
That's okay. We'll let you. We'll have quite a few conspiracy theories on the show today, but we'll start with that one.
Prove that's me. I dare somebody to prove that it's me.
Good to see all of you guys here in the comment section with us today. Reminder, if you want to join the conversation, if you are on Twitter or Facebook, you can head on over to the 440 Sports YouTube channel, where Derek, Eddie, QC Hawk, Krista, Strike 113, Jacob are all here in the chat. Usually Derek starts the show off, if it's me and Stoney, by the way, by saying, "What's up, gents?" But today, because you are on the show, apparently, he went with "What's up, nerds?" saying, "Why the hell is this guy here?
Right.
We don't want him." Yeti saying, "Good evening, lads." Certainly a lot of animosity right here as well. Shrike saying, "Hope Titan social media isn't watching with Easton's internet issues, just waiting to screenshot his face frozen and use it for content." Head on a swivel, Easton.
Just taking me out back with the baseball bat.
Yeah, well,
curb stomping me to start the show. It's crazy.
Derek says, "Made me mad because I had a crappy mom and a phenomenal dad, and they refused to acknowledge the mistake, just deleted it and tucked tail and ran away."
They don't acknowledge the mistake because for however long the first post was up, 15 minutes, whatever it was, by that point, if you repost it and fix the clear and obvious typo, then the comments are just going to run like you're at that point.
No one was going to be happy. At that point, no one
Correct.
was going to be happy.
You're not fixing anything by fixing it at that point. It was just going to be Armageddon with quote tweets and comments, and people were going to miss the point. So they decided to just pretend it never happened, which I support.
Drew says that picture of Easton coming out anytime Bryce Oliver is mentioned. So
that is the face that I make whenever I watch.
Listen, I am that one Oppenheimer meme where you go back to the Senior Bowl like 2.5 years ago, where I said it's a silly picture of Easton eating a taco. What's the worst that could happen?
That I think it's now, a total whim. Like, you weren't sitting there like, "Ooh,
no,
I'm totally gonna get a funny picture of Easton." I think you had your camera out doing something else, and then just started snapping photos and realized, "Oh wait, this one's kind of funny of Easton. Ha ha ha! Let's put it on the internet."
And look where we are.
We've got an NFL Twitter account with millions of followers. Just speaking of taking me behind the woodshed, just kidding. That picture is not me. So whoever that was, I feel terrible for them because that's so embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, let's get started with today's show. Enough yapping from us trying to extend the time during the dead day. You put out a AFC South offensive rankings list that I have a couple issues with, and we'll get into your list here and debate along with all of you in the comments. But before we get started, have to give a massive shout out to our presenting sponsor, M.L.ROSE Craft Beer and Burgers, locations all across the Nashville area with a new revamped menu on the way. There's sure to be something something for everyone to enjoy. 25 beers on tap, a craft beer and burgers list that is suited to everybody's needs. More on them later. And as well as Sinker's Beverages, a 4-time Best of Nashville Liquor Store of the Year, who is celebrating their 40th birthday this upcoming August. They are throwing themselves a little bit of a party to celebrate that you can join us at. More details on that later. All right, Easton, let's get into your list here and start breaking it down. First of all, we'll just bring this up for the class so that everybody can look at your list. We only did the offensive side of the ball, which I think is a fair way to do it. The defensive side is just...
there's a defensive one. It's coming.
It is.
It was too much for one graphic. Can you imagine if I just...
that makes sense. Just a CBS list graphic.
It's one of those, like, you have to load it in 4K to be able to even see what's happening, to zoom in on the different buttons.
Yeah. So we'll start with the offense. I will say, defensive side of the ball, along with your list already, just gut reaction. A lot of Indianapolis Colts. And if we looked at the defensive side of the ball, we won't get too deep into it, but I'd imagine that the Indianapolis Colts are up there for a lot of the other position rankings too.
Not as much as you'd think.
Okay.
You know what? Let me double check that, because the article exists. It's been out for like 2 weeks now, so it's not exactly news. It's just a graphic that we made a graphic. So yeah, let me find that. But I don't think, I mean, as I'm vamping, my 10,000-foot takeaway for the offense was certainly that, like, the offensive, or the Indianapolis Colts sure could be a nice little football team if they learned how to, if they mastered the art of the forward pass, which is a pretty important part of the modern NFL. They'd be pretty good.
Yeah, that does seem to be the running bit here. Derek says this list was made by a Colts fan who's also a Baltimore Ravens supporter as well. Eddie saying, not gonna lie, tight end is crazy. A lot of gut reactions, but
guys, it's really okay. Well, I'm not gonna jump the gun. It's really not crazy to make them the best tight end room in the conference or in the division.
We'll start with
not in the
obvious.
Conference, not close in the conference for what it's worth. The theme on tight end, by the way, is that all the tight end rooms in the AFC South are mid. Like, it's a shiniest turd competition, kind of.
I guess that is fair. We'll start with quarterback, though, the obvious, where for the audio listeners of the podcast.
Okay,
Easton,
hang on. I'm so sorry to cut you off.
Yes.
This is terrible podcasting on my part, but I found the thing.
Okay.
My Colts rankings, without giving away what positions they were, I had the Colts third, second, third, for defense.
So
not,
maybe not as
nearly
high.
as glowing on the defensive side of the ball.
Maybe not as high on this list, but still, like, overall with these rankings, I imagine if you averaged them all out, they probably are around the second best team based on average, just from like looking at it from a like.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think that's controversial at all to say that the Colts have the second best supporting cast in the AFC South. Like,
if they had a competent quarterback, take
CJ Stroud, put him on the Colts. They'd be a good football team. Like, I'm not saying they'd be like the best ever, because I still think their defense is kind of middling, but they'd be good. Yeah. Like, we're gonna get to the receivers here in a minute. They're third in receiver. I like the receiving room. It's well put together, I think.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's an important position in football called quarterback, and they don't have even close to one. So it doesn't. It's all fake. Who cares about the rest of the roster?
Drew says Easton just really likes Mo Alley-Cox, and we'll hear the whole argument here on tight end for Easton. Starting with the quarterback
factor at tight end was Mo Alley-Cox. Yeah, this guy's got to be number one.
Quarterbacks rank as follows: first, CJ Stroud. I guess this is more starting. I mean, are you factoring in all the quarterbacks, the entire room then? Is that...
Yeah, good qualifying question to start, because with all of these rankings, I did them trying to balance... the four things that you have to balance are starter versus depth, right? And the totality of the room versus the best player. And that's on one axis. It's like the political compass. And then on the y-axis, it's like what we've seen in the past year or two versus what we're expecting to see this year. And so I'm trying on that graph to do my rankings as dead center as possible, to weigh them all exactly evenly. And so you'll kind of see that trend, I think, as we go. But trying to put some stock into what we're expecting, but not. I guess not allow any of my hotter takes to influence probabilities. Like there's a part of me that thinks Gunnar Helm could just be the best tight end in the division one day, but I'm not going to make that a part of my rankings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. And so you have CJ Stroud, number 1 in the Texans room, 1, Jags and Trevor Lawrence, 2, Cam Ward in the Titans room, 3, ahead of the amalgamation of a quarterback room in Indianapolis that includes
truly
the
Frankenstein's monster.
It includes the likes of Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, Riley Leonard, and not Sam Ellinger's not there anymore. I believe it's Jason Bean is there.
It is, but good on you for people forget Riley Leonard. That stallion of a man is up there in Indianapolis.
He's hanging around there. So first of all, gut reaction. I really don't have a problem with this. This. I kind of thought
you might, to be honest.
I listen, Daniel. If you're counting Daniel Jones as the starter, I'm
counting whoever. Take your pick. Flip a coin. I don't care.
Yeah, I may have them maybe closer to 3 than 4. If anything, I may have Cam as 2 ahead of Trevor Lawrence already.
That's the biggest issue people had is like, I don't think 1 is controversial. I don't think 4 is controversial. And if it is, frankly, like, I think you need to get your head examined. 2 and 3 is like, when I look up and down this list and try to project, because you make this list and you go, okay, what do we think is most likely to change this year? I think at quarterback 2 and 3 flip-flopping is definitely on the radar of this could change, and it could change quickly. Now, you know me, and you know that I am giving Trevor Lawrence his due. I am not shortchanging Trevor Lawrence on this list. And frankly, I'm expecting a career year out of Trevor Lawrence, given the changes made around him. So,
I think that's the point of why I may disagree with that. Because, like, if we're looking at the optics of heading into this year, we've been expecting a career year for Trevor Lawrence ever since they got rid of Urban Meyer. And he may have had one of those
You're forgetting that this is the year. That's the part here that you're missing is that all of those years we were wrong.
Just like last year was the year, and the year before that was
no. But those ended up not being the year. That's what you're not wrapping your head around.
I understand.
You're not understanding how this year actually is the year.
And listen, I do think that just based on the list, you're probably right. Trevor Lawrence obviously has played more football in the NFL than Cam Ward has. And so, like, I think
he's earned a 9-figure contract. Like, he's not some bum, people. He's not.
He has the potential to have a career year, but has the experience under his belt. Still has not even, like, in 2 years of CJ Stroud, though. I think that's also saying something. As someone who's earned that kind of contract, and we're still saying that he's 2, maybe 3 to a quarterback that has not played football at all at the NFL level, and CJ Stroud, who has had 2 years, 1 pretty good year to start, and then kind of had a down year in year 2. I think that's saying something maybe a little bit about Trevor Lawrence. And so,
down by his standards, I think we all still saw CJ, frankly, carrying that team for a part of the year last year.
That is true.
Let me make this appeal, because I hear what you're saying, and I recognize that I am higher on Trevor than most. But I think if you come at it from this angle, it makes some more sense. Even if you are like, if you think Trevor is grossly overpaid, not worth it, marginally a franchise quarterback. I mean, I don't know if people don't know what the Overton window is, but the Overton window, often in political parlance, is about, like, it's a metaphorical window of what is acceptable discourse versus what is not. So, like, things that are, like, blatantly racist arguments are outside the Overton window. Like, we don't accept those conversations in society. I think if we're talking about the Overton window for Trevor Lawrence discourse, I think if you're talking about him being like a total bum, can't play football, like, I think you're outside the window. Like, I think even the staunchest data-driven, tape-driven hater of Trevor Lawrence still recognizes that he is one of the 20 best quarterbacks in the league. Is that fair? Like 20.
Yeah.
Maybe he's 19th or 20th. Fine. With rookie quarterbacks, as high as we are on Cam, when you look at whatever measure you want to use, DVOA, EPA, whatever, like, unless you are a Jaden Daniels or a CJ Stroud as a rookie, the quote unquote good rookies, the guys that were like, wow, that was a really promising rookie year, tends to still be like the 27th, 25th, 23rd best quarterback in the league, because they're good by rookie standards. Like Caleb Williams last year, who I've written and argued about. I think if you have a Caleb Williams statistical season this year for Cam Ward, that is a definitive success for him. He was like the 27th best player in football. So even if you're better than that, Cam's still the 23rd best quarterback in football. And I think that's still a step below what Trevor Lawrence is.
Yeah, I was mainly kind of kidding around. I agree with you just based on the optics of like what they've done in their career. Now shifting it a little bit and also just kind of to rile up the chat because I know they were going to disagree with your take, as Derek says.
And all of that said, I won't be surprised if I am wrong. I mean, I won't be surprised if he just is better than Trevor this year. Like,
and that's what I was saying. Like, if we're shifting the goalposts, not to do too much of that, but like if we're ranking like based on what we know right now, like if we were like projecting the potential of these quarterbacks and ranking them, that's where I think you can get into. I would put maybe Cam at 2 and Trevor Lawrence at 3 because of that kind of narrative that we've been waiting for the year for Trevor Lawrence to break out. It hasn't happened. We're doing this for the 3rd time now. The first time when he got drafted, and then with their coach, I forget his name already.
Who are we talking about?
The Jags head
Liam
coach.
Cohen.
No, the one before that.
Doug Peterson.
Doug Peterson. I got caught on Urban Meyer.
Captain Smiles.
Yeah. Doug Peterson. We were waiting for that, and now it's Liam Cohen. Like we're getting to the point where it's the definition of insanity in Jacksonville if it does not happen this year. So, but yeah, if you're looking at the potential of what they could have this year, like even then, like last year, like Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams had similar years, I would think, from an optics standpoint, like even though he was hurt, I think both of them had pretty similar years. So I think it's fair to say like Cam has all the momentum in the world as of right now, even from me being the cautious optimist here in the room on Cam and trying to hold back excitement. Like I think there is a window there. And if he does have like a Caleb Williams year, I think that definitely we go into next year putting him 2. But I think it all comes down to, like you said, this is going to be the year for Trevor, apparently, as it has been for the past couple of years. Jacob in the comments saying Trevor Lawrence is the 2nd best number 1 overall pick in the division, ahead of Trayvon Walker, though. I think that's, I don't agree with that.
We can't say that yet. Like,
we cannot. Like, Trevor Lawrence is a national champion at the college level. Like, just from optics like that.
I think either way you're looking at it, if you're talking about in terms of like what they were as a prospect, Trevor was definitely a better prospect on paper than Cam was. And if we're talking about what they've been in the NFL, one of them hasn't played in the NFL yet, so he can't be better.
Yeah. But I'm glad we can all agree, though, that even if we assume that it is Aaron Rodgers, or not Aaron Rodgers, Anthony Richardson, if we can assume that it's Danny Dimes, whoever it is, the Colts just, it feels like it feels like no matter what they roll out there, it is going to be the worst quarterback in the division. Like, what would it take for Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson to be in the conversation to maybe get to that 3rd spot, usurp a Cam Ward or a Trevor Lawrence?
I mean, Daniel Jones could just have a 2022 Daniel Jones season where he's like running the ball a bunch. And I mean, there's a reason Minnesota wanted to keep him around last year. I don't think Daniel Jones is nothing. I just think he's got a really firm ceiling. Now, there's a part of me that's suspicious that Daniel Jones in this Colts ecosystem on offense that I do believe in Shane Steichen, and I do believe in a lot of the pieces they have. There's a part of me that wonders if the defense, like if the offense is just like kind of good and they're just looking for like, maybe they've just been wandering the desert looking for competent play, just average quarterback play. I'm excited to see what that looks like. Yeah,
I agree with you there. I think that's that does it for the quarterback conversation. I feel like we've said the most on it. You're never gonna appease the chat because as you know, over here on the Hot Read podcast, it's an anti-Trevor Lawrence chat.
It's Trev hate city over here. That's why I left, actually. People little known fact. That was the driving factor. Our argument over Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence is what forced us. It was pretty ugly behind the scenes, to be honest. It was a knockdown, drag out. It's a wonder the tabloids didn't get a hold of that conversation.
Much like the Jeffrey Simmons discussion from last week as well. They got that one. They did not get ours, though. So
that's right.
Wide receiver here. Pretty similar list to what quarterback was. You have the Texans as the number 1 wide receiver core in the AFC South, the Jacksonville Jaguars at 2, the Indianapolis Colts at 3, and the Tennessee Titans at 4. First of all, I don't think there's any conversation that anybody else besides the Houston Texans wide receiver core can be number one as of right now.
Glad we agree on that.
I'm glad.
I think this entire ranking is the least controversial thing I've ever said in my entire life.
From top to bottom there, I do think, like, from the guys they got in the draft, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, there are so many guys, like, they have
too many guys.
They're gonna have
cooks. Like, that's the whole room.
They're going to have to release some guy that is going to instantly get picked up by another team because all the guys are competent.
John Mechie's going to be available in 2 months. Everybody's going to be like, John Mechie's available? Yeah, the third round pick. He's out there.
Jacksonville, this feels like you're projecting Hunter to be
the only generational player in this draft to be good at football. Yes, I am projecting that.
You're projecting him to be competent wide receiver 2, which I think is a fair statement, but outside of that, like, they have 2 top dogs, and I think that gives them the deserving spot here at 2.
They have a player who is easily, no question, with a bullet, the second best receiver in the division. Like,
yes,
can we agree on that already?
Yes, absolutely.
Like, it's Nico, Grand Canyon, Brian Thomas, Grand Canyon, argue everybody else.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I might close the canyon between BTJ and Nico Collins just a little bit.
Give me like 1 month of BTJ more, and I'll agree with you. Yeah.
So those 2 I'm okay with, and after the Jacksonville Jaguars, like, after those 2 though, it gets pretty ugly pretty fast with De'Ami
that
Brown
little line you see in the middle,
Parker.
that's the demarcation of sadness and hope between the top 2 teams and the bottom 2 teams.
You have De'Ami Brown and Parker Washington after that. Then you get to the Colts and the Titans. And am I crazy to say that I think that and if I can do a little bit of projecting myself, that this Titans room could be and maybe is better than what Indianapolis has? And this may be a argument based on, once again, if they had a competent quarterback who can throw the ball and operate, and maybe that is Daniel Jones. But, like, let's say, for the sake of the argument, it is going to be Anthony Richardson because he comes back to camp and they give him the run and he becomes the number 1. Like, if Anthony Richardson is that quarterback in that room, there's no way in my mind that I'm putting the Indianapolis Colts ahead of the Tennessee Titans for this upcoming season. And it's because, like,
in terms of output, I mean,
yes, okay. I would think so, because you look at both.
But we're not talking about output. We're talking about who's got the better players. Like,
I do think that Tennessee will have the better wide receiving core with them, because if you look at what the Indianapolis Colts,
a lot of projecting.
If you look at what the Indianapolis Colts did with both Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco last year, they had 3 800-yard receivers. I don't think they have a clear top dog. I think they have a lot of wide receiver 2s. However, like, I think you look at what the Titans have. They clearly have a wide receiver 1. Tyler Lockett is still, for my money's worth, as long as he is healthy, Tyler Lockett, I think he's going to be able to put anywhere between 600 to 800 yards up as a wide receiver 2.
Wow, and then that's a lot of faith. I don't have that kind of faith in Tyler.
And then you have these young receivers, the rookies, one of them, which we called potentially the steal of the draft, who could make an impact as early as week 1 or week 2. I think you're looking at a group of wide receivers this upcoming year that Michael Pittman, maybe if he's healthy, can get back to it there. But, like, we saw what they did with Anthony Richardson. And as good as those wide receivers are, the wide receivers themselves can't make the most of those opportunities without the wide receiver. We saw Calvin Ridley in a horrendous system last year with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph still get to 1,000 yards. And I think that means barely, but still way closer to 1,000 yards than Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, or Alec Pierce did.
So, but all 3 of them got to 800. Like,
right. But, like, I think you're without a wide receiver 2 in that room last year. I think you easily have a wide receiver 2 this year for the Titans in Tyler Lockett or Alec Ayumanor or maybe Chimere Dike that can get you to anywhere between 600 to 800 yards.
So I don't disagree that by the end of the year, there's a chance that we see it as a better room. Like, I'm not down on this Titans receiving room in terms of potential by any means. But number one, something that you are either forgetting or you've missed, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, I have on the record many times at this point said that Alec Ayamaner is going to become a household name, which we know what that means when I say that about players. I've done it one time and it went really poorly. So sorry about that, but it's over. Love the guy, but it's over. I think that, so I agree with you that the Titans have a slightly better top dog. I think Calvin Ridley is a low end wide receiver 1. I think Michael Pittman is a high end wide receiver 2. But beyond that, you don't think so?
No, I'm sorry. I just saw Derek in the comments.
Oh,
throwing out blasphemous takes.
Yeah, that's outrageous. But all right.
Made me do a double take real quick.
Yeah, that's fair. But beyond those two, like, I think that the Colts have the better player right now at every position down the chart. Like, I don't want to discount what Josh Downs is. I think he's actually
I loved some Josh Downs.
I think he's their best receiver. So he's not ever going to be a 1 in the traditional sense of being a boundary receiver in that way, but like, he absolutely can be your 1 in terms of volume and production. And I think that he's still an ascending player. I think Alec Pierce proved again, he got to 800 yards and we thought nothing of him and he was in a terrible situation. He may kind of be one trick pony but the one trick, like, it works. I don't know what to tell you. It works. He's good at it. He can stretch the field. And then AD Mitchell is still in that room and heading into year 2. I don't want to discount that potential either. I just think right now, it is crazy to say that the Titans, where it is, as much hope as we have, it is Calvin Ridley and then hope. All hope behind him is all it is. It's projections and hope. The Colts have 3 or 4 proven commodities. And I think that they're good at football. And I think that they are, at least 3 of them have proven out to be starting caliber NFL receivers in a bad room. Let's see what happens when they get into a half decent, if they ever get into a half decent room.
Right. And I think, maybe that's where I'm confusing the two between like what they have now. Like, but if you're telling me that if we're projecting based on the potential ceiling of these groups, I think the ceiling for a Titans wide receiver core with Cam right now is way higher than anything those top 3 receivers and AD Mitchell will ever have with Anthony Richardson as quarterback based on where they are right now, I think.
Yeah, but you keep bringing in the quarterback. I don't think that's a part of the calculation here at all. We're talking about agnostic of quarterback. All 4 of these receiving rooms have the same quarterback or the same generic, idea.
Well, if all of them have Anthony Richardson as their quarterback, we're all doomed.
I'm afraid that's true. Yes.
Let's see here. Jacob also saying, you have to talk about Van Jefferson here. Let's just say if Van Jefferson
has what, a 500-yard receiver, like,
I think that's a solid 3 or 4 for sure. But yeah, definitely not in the realm of I think you're looking at him versus AD Mitchell, and you're hoping right there with a 500-yard season, you're looking at that higher end ceiling of he's returning to that production he had rookie year, right?
I'll tell you right now, if we look up at the end of the year and Van Jefferson is your 2nd or 3rd highest producing receiver on this team, then the Titans absolutely belong to number 4 on this list. Because things didn't go well. Yeah, things didn't work out in the hope category.
Eddie's saying Lockett, Jefferson over Pierce and Downs easily.
That's outrageous.
I think that's kind of wild.
First of all, 2020, like, we're in the big 2025 right now. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I think that is fair. QC Hawk saying, just admit it. Restrepo puts Titans at number 2 automatically. That's a funny bit. I like that bit.
Why stop it too?
Saying Colts have proven commodities and then discounting Lockett is wild.
None of the Colts proven commodities are registering for Medicare. I'm sorry. I like Tyler and I think that he can be something for the Titans this year, but he was a franchise staple in Seattle for the past 72 years. Teams don't let their franchise staples walk in free agency without even offering them a contract unless it's over. That's why I'm not super bullish on what I think that he can be a nice veteran presence and be a reliable guy when they need him. And everything, his entire reputation is staked on his health. Like, if you stay healthy, that's the big thing. It's like, well, at least this guy stays on the field. The second that goes, then it's concerning. And I don't know. I think this is a classic trap of a team being like, Tyler Lockett. We've been watching him for a decade and he's good at football, and not considering the fact that typically when you're on the other side of this, what do you think the Seahawks fans are saying right now? Like, whew, yeah, glad we didn't re-sign Tyler Lockett. I guarantee that's what they're saying. As much as they love Tyler Lockett, it's because it's kind of over.
I think that's a fair retort to that one. Drew in the comments saying the faith in this Titans receiving room is baffling. Whose faith? My faith or
just
Easton's
people's
faith?
in general. I think he's with me that like this is the least controversial ranking ever. I think Texans, Jaguars, Colts, Titans are the clear and obvious order here, and there's maybe not a Grand Canyon between each of them, but like a medium canyon between each of them. I don't think it's close.
Bustin' Diamond saying Texans should be 2 in wide receivers, Jag should be 1. I think that's projecting that you think Hunter turns into the wide receiver that I think he'd have to play majority wide receiver snaps for that to be the correct opinion there, because you look at what the Texans have. I mean, you look at first Nico Collins. I think, like you said, I'm not disagreeing that he right now is sitting in the pole position as the best wide receiver in the division.
I mean, Nico might be a top 5 receiver in the whole league at this point. Like, people don't realize it yet. I think this will be the year that they really wrap their heads around the idea that this guy is. I mean, he's a stud. He's incredible.
Yeah, but you go past that, Christian Kirk, the 2 new rookies, like they have just not only do they have the top end talent,
right,
but I think you look at what they did in the draft, and it's just like that room is just the best. Who knows who's going to be wide receiver 2? Because I could see any of those other guys, Christian Kirk, Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins, getting that wide receiver 2 role.
I'd be tempted to fire off the take that the Jaguars are better than the Texans already, just because I think there's a chance that Travis Hunter is like Justin Jefferson. Maybe that's just me. But like if they had any semblance of depth, and I mean like any, I'd be tempted, but they don't. It is, I mean, those 2 and then sadness. They paid De'Ami Brown $10 million. I still can't believe they did that.
Zedine says Lockett was released because they could save $17 million. I still think he has 1 to 2 years left in the tank, but money was the main reason he was let go. Drew saying,
left in the tank of doing what? 500 yards a year? Like, I agree. Yes, but that's not a thing. Like, those are Chigakonkwo numbers, folks.
That's fair. Drew saying, yeah, I'm with Easton. I like the rookies they added, but this team is full of 2s and 3s at best. Lockett, Jefferson are virtually non-factors, in my opinion. I listen, calling Tyler Lockett a non-factor, like, I think I was along the lines that you could look at Tyler Lockett and say, like, not Tyler Lockett.
I think Lockett could be your 3 and it'd be a good room.
Yeah, for sure. But like Tyler Boyd last year, I think when we saw him was like, that's a non-factor. I think Tyler Lockett is better than Tyler Boyd.
What did Boyd finish with? Did he how many yards did he have?
I would be surprised if he had more than like 300 yards.
300 yards.
Yeah.
He had just shy of 390 yards.
Yeah.
So like maybe I'm being a Tyler Lockett hater. If we look up and that's his final stat line, I'm not going to be shocked. I'm not.
Yeah,
I would take the over on him getting to that number.
Yeah, I would too.
I'm not smashing it. I'm not putting the morgie on Tyler Lockett over 400.
Drew saying he's a starting caliber 3/slot. Non-factor is probably too harsh, but he doesn't move the needle. So all in all, I agree with you. I just think based on the ceiling, like, we could revisit this list and easily, like, the Titans have another 1,000-yard receiver in Calvin Ridley, and they have 2 other guys that have around 700 to 800 yards, and
it could all go right, and it looks a lot different. I agree.
Yeah, and so we can move then to the tight end room here, which very, very spicy one here. Is
it? All right.
Let's break down the ranking here first. You have the Indianapolis Colts with the number 1 tight end room, the Houston Texans 2, the Tennessee Titans 3, and Jacksonville Jaguars 4. No complaints with the Jaguars.
I was going to ask, can we go ahead and take the Jaguars? Like, is that the least controversial part of this? The Jaguars are 4 with a bullet. Like, any Brenton Strange lovers out there? No.
No.
Okay.
If there are, I don't want to be associated with them right there. And
sorry,
then you get
Mr. and Mrs. Strange.
The other 3. I guess if you want to project like Tyler Warren being the best tight end, I think that's fair. I think that then brings in, hasn't played a snap, wasn't the number 1 tight end even in this draft class. that's kind of, you look at how
Yes, but he was
they
still a
viewed him.
top 12 pick, right? Or
This
whatever
is
it
true.
was.
Yes.
What number was he? I think he was 12 or 14.
He was 14, I believe. Yeah. So
Okay.
top 15 pick.
We're talking about a tight end who's a top 15 pick. How often does that happen?
I mean, not a lot, but I think there's a very different, like, Brock Bowers going 13 or 14 versus Tyler Warren, I think is a totally different discussion.
Well, you're talking about like the best tight end prospect we've ever seen. So yes.
Okay. So,
but
I do think that you're kind of
Kyle
leaving
Pitts
out,
also went above him. We saw how that worked
that's
out.
true.
So
you're
he was
leaving
like
out
the
what
fourth
Dalton
pick
Schultz,
in the whole draft.
You're leaving out what Dalton Schultz has done over his career, which is be super productive.
Is put up Chigakonkwo numbers in the past 2 seasons? Because that's what he's done.
Listen, okay.
That's what he's done.
But I would say that if you're looking at
us for 2 years.
Right, but you look at what he does in their offense, Dalton Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
He is a contributor on every single drive. He is the guy that moves the chains for them. He, in a room full of wide receivers with top talent, he still continues to carve out a role for him that I find hard to believe that Tyler Warren's going to do the same thing right now, given what that offense is.
Oh, I don't think that's true at all. I mean, like,
really?
Yeah, I think Tyler Warren could be the Colts. We just talked about how the Colts don't have a clear one. Like, I think there's a world in which Tyler Warren's their most productive receiver this year. So it sounds like you and I'm more bullish on Tyler Warren than you are. I'm also just like, I'm not buying it with Dalton Schultz being this like awesome player. Like, again, the past 2 years, he's had 600 and 500 yards. He's had 5 and 2 touchdowns. So in the past 2 years combined, he's had 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns. Like he is a chain mover in the sense that he's had 35 and 26 first downs, but that's a tight end's role. Like he's a good tight end. I'm not saying he's a bad tight end, but he is super. There's a hard ceiling on him. Like that he's a tier above Chigakonkwo, and he's never ever going to reach the tier that I think Tyler Warren in pretty short order could reach.
Now, I think you still have to put Tyler Warren, like if he's going to be used the same way that Penn State used him and use him all over the field in different varying positions, like I think that's fair. That's where you can put him. I just don't know if that's exactly how they're going to use him in this offense. Like I don't know if that 5-tool all over the field type of player is what the Indianapolis Colts are envisioning in him. And so like I think like you could look at his rookie season and look at the same amount of yards as a 500 to 600 player. Like, but right. I'm just going to take Dalton Schultz as the known commodity right now. Tyler Warren is such a unicorn at that tight end position, and the fact that he does so many different things for an offense, and it really just depends on what they're feeling that day or against that certain team, right, to exploit a defense's weakness. And so I think that is really what you have to factor in with Tyler Warren. I'm not disagreeing with you saying like the talent level isn't there to be the number one tight end. I'm just still curious to see how they're going to use him. And so like, I'm not putting him any lower than 2 right now, but in terms of known commodities that we have in this division, I think right now I have the Texans over him. You
had the Texans? You have the
Texans over.
I see. Over the Colts. I see. I mean, I am with you on the technicality that we don't know how the Colts are going to use him. The reason why I'm pretty confident I know how they're going to use him is because they drafted him with the 14th overall pick. Like you don't draft a tight end in the front half of the first round and then use him as your dirty work guy. It's not how it works. And if you do, you're a moron. So I'm not like he had over 100 receptions, not targets, receptions last year at Penn State and 1,200 yards. I understand that he's not like the Dalton Kincaid style, like sexy, like glorified receiver type where it's just like, he's not going to be an inline guy, but who cares? This guy's going to go and just be, I mean, Brock Bowers is kind of that way too. He's got more of a well-rounded body type, but that doesn't mean that he's not an incredible receiver. He was an incredible receiver. It's what got him drafted 14th overall. As well-rounded as he is and as how useful as he can be as an inline blocking tight end, that's not what got him drafted at 14 overall. It's his receiving ability. And I know enough about Chris Ballard to know that he's not spending the 14th overall pick on a non-premium position unless he expects that guy to be a dramatic impact on the offense. And the only way a tight end can be a dramatic impact on an offense, unless they're the best blocking tight end in the entire league, is to be an impact in the receiving game. Like maybe he's George Kittle, and in that case, he's an incredible blocking tight end just as much as he is an incredible receiver. Then cool, he's definitely the best tight end in the division, like not a question.
Yeah, I hope that he ends up being that if he is going to be the number one tight end, because there is also something to be said that he can come into this division and immediately be the number one tight end, because there isn't a really superstar-esque tight end in this division. And that
you are
kind
overlooking Gunnar Helm right now.
Well, that's where I was getting to. What is this Tennessee Titans tight end room?
What is it? I don't know.
Now, I talked about conspiracy theories earlier. We were talking about you not being in that photo and things like that. Is it fair to say that the Titans could end up having maybe the best tight end room in the entire division next season? Maybe because of you saying Gunnar Helm, me saying Chigakonkwo?
I heavily debated making the Titans 2 here and the Texans 3. Because again, like I think that Dalton Schultz is a step above Chigakonkwo. And I still think Chigakonkwo has a ceiling that Dalton Schultz is not ever going to touch. I also question whether Chig is ever going to touch it himself, but I think it exists.
Which is my going argument here. Like if the Titans are doing what they've said they've been doing and trying to make this offense more Cam friendly and take things from what Miami did and use those, and we've seen some of the things he's done in practice, is it fair to say that how dynamic of a connection that Cam and Elijah Arroyo had last season in the seam game, in the yards after the catch and making plays like that? Is it fair to say that maybe like we finally have a system and a quarterback that is going to use Chigakonkwo's full potential? And I know I've been saying this on this show with you for the past 2.5, 3 years, but like, is there a reality, and just tinfoil hat is on, that they are finally could end up using Chigakonkwo as like the guy that he's always been, which is this athletic yards after the catch playmaker? And the short answer is probably no, because I don't think that this coaching staff is ever going to use him in that way, or maybe as high on him as they may be to use him that way. See Gunnar Helm. But like, I think the pieces are all there to where in some crazy little corner of some multiverse like that actually happens.
Right. The reason why I am ready to be hurt again by Chigakonkwo is that this is kind of a smooth brain answer, but it's how I feel in my heart. When I was watching Cam back in February for the first, really like truly doing the tape study on him, one of the biggest takeaways, which I think anybody that watched me, biggest takeaway is like, this guy loves to just rip the seam ball. Like he loves to deal with traffic between the numbers. We know that, we've been talking about it a bunch, but he just loves to rip a nasty seam ball. And then I was like, okay, who runs the most and the best seam routes on the team? And the answer is Chig. So I don't know, maybe it'll work, and he'll have 800 yards this year, and 750 of them will come on a seam go.
Yards after the catch, be an athletic freak and break tackles. I totally agree with you.
Right,
like, I think
that seam go merchant all year is a possibility with Gunnar Helm. And I see our friend Drew in the comments saying, I think we're significantly overrating what Gunnar Helm is. I like him, but he's a very average separator with some juice after the catch who can't survive as an inline blocker. I was being facetious earlier when I was talking about him being the best tight end in the division, or better than what I think Tyler Warren is going to be. My actual, like, I think reasonable comp for Gunnar Helm, because I do think that he could be the best, and maybe questionably already is the best tight end on this team, or in short order will become one. I'm not all the way sold, but like I'm starting to think it. And if he has a great September, like I might already be there. I think that I see him as Jake Ferguson, which to me is a half tier or full tier, whatever you want to be, above Dalton Schultz personally, because I'm just not a huge Dalton Schultz guy. But whether you want to say it's the same or a tier above, whatever, like I think that that's what he can be, which is clearly a starting tight end. a guy that's going to get 5 or 6 or 700 yards a season, be a chain mover, and be really useful to your offense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And so to wrap it up, yeah, the Jags don't even deserve to be on this list given what they have. And so we can
name the Jags backup tight end. Can you do it?
Don't think I can. I don't know, which is
I looked it up for this article and I've already forgotten what it was. So
let me see. Is it Luke Farrell? Is it Luke Farrell?
I think it is Luke Farrell. It's two mercenaries they just brought in. I think one of them is Luke Farrell.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna look it up because it's really good.
Bustin' Diamond says Steve Bobson. I don't even know who Steve Bobson
person.
is. That is not a real person. Jake Robertson saying, just logged in thinking I was super late today, only to realize Easton's on. So I'm sure the show just started.
Not true. Not true. That's
is Mercedes Lewis back? I know he wants to play one more year. So Z-Dean says
Jack we were wrong. We were wrong. Behind Brenton Strange in Jacksonville, you've got mercenary man Johnny Munt. Hailing from Minnesota.
Yes, okay.
And Hunter Long from the Los Angeles Rams, as well as Quinton Morris from Buffalo. So some really exciting guys.
That's and
then a couple of UDFAs you've definitely heard of: Patrick Herbert and John Copenhaver.
Hey, that is one of the tight end rooms of all time. I'll say that. Let's move on as we wrap up the show here. Running back, I think is pretty fair. You have the Colts 1, the Titans 2, the Houston Texans 3, and the Jaguars 4. I know a lot of people love Bashal Tootin down there, and they're getting ready to.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, they're getting ready to bang that drum. But I mean, that 3-headed monster of ETN and Bigsby and Tootin are just it is what it is. I do think there is some versatility flip-flopping the Texans and the Titans if Nick Chubb is any semblance of what he was. It is the year after the year for him, but like as of right now, I'm with you. I'm pretty sad that they did in fact sign Nick Chubb, because there goes Woody Marks, I think. But
that's right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, rip my king. I was so excited for him to be their dirty work goal line back, and they just had to go get Nick Chubb. But they have Joe Mixon, and I think that is a good 1-2 punch. And if Nick Chubb can get back to anywhere where he looks like his former self, I know last year we saw him come back and it was just kind of sad to see. We'll see if more time off gets him a little bit more pep in that step. I highly doubt it, but we'll have to see. And then, you get to the room of Jonathan Taylor, Tony Pollard. I don't like. I think Jonathan Taylor is still miles ahead of the Titans room. But like,
guys, Jonathan Taylor had 1,400 yards and double-digit touchdowns last year. What are we talking about?
Yes. I mean, Tony Pollard deserves, like, I think there is like Jonathan Taylor gap, Tony Pollard in this room gap, and then everybody else, right?
I agree.
I do think you really can't even say like the depth on this team is a talking point. We haven't seen enough from Tyjae Spears. I think it's a plus to add to this ranking.
Yep.
But like, I think it's fair to say I don't think it's crazy, this ranking. I think this is the correct one, and it sees, let's see. Derek says, I'm not even joking with this one. Pollard is better than JT this year with the revamped line.
It's going to take JT being hurt for a lot of the year, because like Pollard is not going to get the same. He's not going to have the workload he had last year. And last year it took that over workload to get to 1,000 yards. Again, Jonathan Taylor had 1,400 yards and double-digit touchdowns last year. He's a workhorse. That's the whole thing.
Eddie says, does JT actually survive a year of getting run into the ground, compensating for dimes in AR-15? I think that is a fair question. Eddie saying, taking me over on Khalil Herbert starting 3.5 games when JT has 500 carries by week 7.
Wait, it's not Khalil Herbert anymore, is it? Don't they have a?
I think they just signed Khalil Herbert. I think.
Oh, that's right.
I think it's Zach Moss.
No. They drafted somebody.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, because people are like, fantasy-wise, like, oh yeah, here's the handcuff.
Derek said Pollard ran for 100 or 1,000 yards with actual traffic cones on the right side.
One traffic cone.
Drew saying the Jaquindon Jackson disrespect in Jacksonville is crazy. All right, thank you.
DJ Giddens, that's who I'm thinking of.
Yes, that's right.
5th round legend DJ Giddens.
I think that also adds to that room. Joe says Tyjae show huge flashes of the next great Titans back in 2023. What happened to that Tyjae?
He got hurt.
Yeah. So I think Khalil Mullings can surprise all of us. if he has a shot, his shot will be being a third back. And so I don't see any more of a ceiling for him than that. So
I mean, if there's a big injury, God forbid, then we'll see. But otherwise, no.
So I think that one is pretty square away with Colts 1, Titans 2, Texans 3, Jags 4. And then the offensive line here. You have the Colts 1, Titans 2, Jacksonville 3, and Texans 4. I think fair to put the Texans as 4 because they blew it all up. I don't think they can be anywhere higher. I do think that as much as you have the Colts 1, like, I think with the revamped pieces, there's a very real argument to say the Titans have the best line in the division.
Yeah, I got to see it first. I think it could
that's
be the
fair,
case.
yeah.
But like the Colts have a proven commodity left tackle who is good at football, like a good left tackle. He's not the best left tackle, but he's an above average left tackle. They still have a fantastic guard, obviously in Quentin. And they have like good pieces at the other 3 positions.
It's
like
just,
they don't have holes, just like the Titans don't have holes. And I think that their 2 best linemen are already proven better than the Titans' 2 best linemen. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that it could happen. And maybe 2 months into the season, I'm like, you know what? Titans do have the best line. But maybe it's PTSD. I just can't.
You can't put it there.
Go there now. No, in June, you're crazy.
Yeah. It is, however, I will say, when you look at, the left side is super as solid as they come. If they play up to potential. I know we've seen what happens if Quentin Nelson cannot play like Quentin Nelson does. We see what the disaster is, and that is AR's first year. Like, that was, for all intensive purposes, a dumpster fire. Mm-hmm. But then you look at, they kind of let some pieces go, and there's some young, unproven talent on the right side there. You have Matt Goncalves as your right guard, a day 2 prospect from last year that got some time. You're asking a lot of Braden Smith once again. They have Jalen Travis, the rookie that a lot of us were high on. And then, Will Fry's not there anymore. So you have Tanner Bortolini from Wisconsin stepping up. So, like, I think there is as many questions as, like, I need to see it on the Colts side as I do on the Titans side. But, like, I think it's fair to say, like, unknown commodities right now, like, they're probably still 1, but just like you, I think I can see a world where, like, if everything clicks and Lloyd Cushenberry comes back into form, which, like, as Bussin' Diamond says, our center is an aging vet coming off an Achilles rupture. He's 27. So I don't know how aging he is if he's 27.
We are all aging if you really think about it.
So, but, like, I think even if Eddie has the concerns worried about Zeitler's age and Dan Moore's general ability, but 3 out of 5 ain't bad though. Like, if you get at least competent offensive line play, I think that's good enough to keep off the Texans and the Jags lines of the world, right? I think that puts you in the solid top 15 category, which I think is what you're hoping for the Titans this season.
Yeah, I agree. I am very bullish on the offensive line, so I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like.
Just like last year or 2 years ago, where you said it couldn't get worse this year, but then it ended up doing that. So,
the words of a fool.
Yeah. Well, This was Zedine saying he has aged since this podcast has started. That is technically true. Not much, but you have. And I think that's going to do it for our conversation today, Easton. Thank you for coming back on. It was fun to run down these lists, have a little back and forth, even though my takes are wildly out there sometimes. And, it's fun to debate you as well. Derek, saying no arguments there on that line. Thank you to M.L.ROSE and Sinkers Beverages for sponsoring the show. And hey, Sinkers Beverages, their 40th birthday's coming up at the Basement East. They're having 3 bands play with music starting at 6 p.m. on Saturday, August the 9th at 5:30. Tickets are $10 and all proceeds benefit the Martha K. O'Brien Center in East Nashville. You can purchase those tickets to their 40th birthday party through the Basement East website. And with every ticket that you purchase, you get an entry to a raffle to join the Sinkers crew on a trip to Buffalo Trace to pick a very special single barrel of bourbon, which is very exciting. So I'm going just for that, but also to go support a good cause and celebrate 40 years of Sinkers Beverages. being one of the best liquor stores in East Nashville. Also, thank you to M.L.ROSE. Locations all over the Nashville area: Capitol View, Franklin, Gallatin, Melrose, 8th Avenue, Mount Juliet, and Sylvan Park. Go to one because they have everything that you could want. Craft beer, craft burgers. So good with a new menu on the way. And that's going to do it for our show. We'll be back Friday with Stoney returning, I believe. But until then, this has been the Hot Read Podcast. We will talk to you then.